And welcome to our lesson on solving for values of our variable. And basically, we'll do a little bit of a warm-up here just to show you what it means. So if I gave you x plus 3 and I said to you x equals 5, I think we know by now that it means take this x, turn it into the 5, and add 3 to it, and we would get an answer of 8. So it becomes a little bit different though if I said to you x plus 3 equals 15. Now if you think about this for a second, what is it I'm trying to ask you here? Well, what I'm telling you is that if I took a mystery number and I added 3 to it, my answer would be 15. So there's several ways to think about how to solve this. I think most of you by now would probably think about that and you would say, well, that's 12. And you would easily be able to tell me x equals 12. But if I asked you how you got there, sometimes it's a little more difficult. And so I'd like to show you an example of how I'd like for you to approach this. And we're going to use the concept of, instead of BEDMAS, we're going to go SAMDEB. And what I'm talking about here is we've taken BEDMAS and we've flipped it the other way. We need to do our operations in the opposite order that we would if we were trying to find the answer of x plus 3. We already have the answer of what x plus 3 is, so we're working backwards. So what I would do here is I need to look at this and say, well, I've got x plus 3, and I know in the end I want to have the variable all by itself. So I need to look at what I'm doing to the x. In this case, I'm adding 3, and I need to do the opposite. So the opposite of adding 3 would be subtracting 3. And there's the old adage, or the old saying, what I do to one side of my equal sign, I need to make sure that I'm doing that to the other side as well. So the reason for that is I need to make sure that my equation is balanced, and that means that if I've done something over here, I need to do the same thing here. Now if you look at this, if I added 3 and then subtracted 3, I think I would have nothing left here. So for instance, these 3 positives and 3 negatives, they cancel each other out. So the only thing I have left on this side of my equal sign is going to be that x. Over here, I've got my 15 positives, 3 negatives, or 15 subtract 3. And if I were to do the math on that, I would get x equals 12, which is what we just talked about. So I've done my subtracting and adding, and I've done the opposite of those. Now it gets to be a little bit more interesting when I look at these and I do a multiplying question. So for instance, if I had 2d equals 16. So here, I still need to think about, well, what am I doing to that d? So in this case, I'm multiplying it, and I get 16. And this is an important step for you to write in. Some of you may wish that you could skip this step. We're not ready to do that yet. We're going to put in all of these steps that show when we do our opposite action. So in this case, we've got 2 multiplied by d. The opposite of multiplying by 2 is going to be dividing by 2. And what I do to one side, I do to the other. And if I look at this, if I multiplied something by 2 and then divided it by 2, it'd be like I did nothing at all. So the only thing that I have left on that side is just going to be a single d. And if I did 16 divided by 2, I would get the answer of 8. And that's essentially how we would do those simple ones. Now if things get a little more complicated and we have an equation such as 2r plus 3 equals 17, what I need to do here is I need to use this SAMDEB, sorry. And what that tells me is I need to do my adding subtracting first. So I'm going to do my 2r plus 3. Well, the opposite of adding 3, again, is subtracting 3. But what I do to one side, I need to do to the other. So here, the plus 3 and the negative 3 cancel each other out, so I'm left with 2r. 17 subtract 3 is 14. And now if I follow my SAMDEB, I've got my dividing and multiplying I need to take care of. Well, here I'm multiplying by 2, so the opposite of multiplying by 2 is dividing by 2. And then what I'm left with is an r, and 14 divided by 2 is 7. So r equals 7. Remember to show all your steps, to put all these items in, and that'll help you be successful. If you're going to test to see if you got it right, you can take this answer. So for instance, I've said r is 7. If I go 2 times 7 plus 3, I get 14 plus 3, which equals 17. That was the answer I was supposed to get, so I think I've done this correctly.